So we're on the cusp of one of the first massive smartphone launches of 2021 because Samsung is getting ready to yank back the curtain on its fresh new S21 smartphone, as well as a bit of Plus and Ultra action for those with massive wallets and even massiver pockets. But before all of that sexiness, I only just realised the other day that I never actually got around to reviewing this absolute behemoth here, the Samsung Galaxy S20 Ultra. What a dum-dum. The Galaxy S20 Ultra was the ultimate version of Samsung's 2020 flagship phone, boasting an insane 100x space zoom camera, a beastly 6.9-inch Super AMOLED screen, and super premium specs throughout, all wrapped up in a shiny glass frame. Sadly, here in the UK, we got a version of the Ultra using Samsung's own Exynos 990 chipset, but I managed to wrangle a version from the US which uses Qualcomm's Snapdragon 865 chipset instead, and if you're a fellow Brit and you're tempted by the Ultra, I'd recommend doing the same for a better overall experience. But anyway, I've had this wee beastie for coming up on 12 months now, and I've been mostly using it as a point of comparison for other super premium smartphones, but finally here is my in-depth review now that it'll hopefully drop a bit in price with the impending S21 Ultra. Because right now most retailers are still selling it for a hot grand, and it costs from around £60 a month on contract, which frankly is a bit mental. Now, while Samsung offered a veritable rainbow of colour choices for its Fan Edition model, the S20 Ultra sadly offers the less than thrilling selection of Cosmic Grey or Cosmic Black. And either way, you're getting an absolute monster of a smartphone. When I first tried to get to grips with the Ultra about a year ago, I thought frankly it was absolutely ludicrous. It's like, what's next? We just strap a laptop to our arms and go about with that all day instead. But then 2020 started tossing an endless supply of frickin' enormous handsets at us like the utter bastard it was. And you know what? I think that my hand joints are somehow separated and reformed to adjust to handling something so ridiculously huge. Ladies. Because seriously, 12 months on, the Ultra doesn't feel quite so insanely massive. It's just the new normal, I guess. God damn it. But that's not to say that it isn't still ridiculously cumbersome, and I do still find that my fingers or palm bits occasionally stray to the edges of the screen and tap things that they shouldn't, a problem that I strangely didn't have with Samsung's massive Note 20 blowers. That exceptionally smooth glass surfacer means that the S20 Ultra has the uncanny habit of slipping out of my pocket as soon as I start reclining on a sofa or anything like that, and also it loves to slide its way along any table surface or desk that isn't 100% completely flat before hurling itself unceremoniously off the edge. You do thankfully get a pre-installed screen protector with the S20 Ultra, which has scratched up a fair bit over the past year. But you've also got Gorilla Glass 6 plating on the front as well as the back, so even without the protector, it should have been fine. That back end is certainly pristine despite plenty of heavy handling. Now, the S20 Ultra has been fully updated to the latest Android 11 as well as Samsung's new OneUI launcher version 3.0, so certainly the software experience feels nice and fresh as you'd expect from a super premium smartphone. I've got to say though, OneUI version 3 looks really nice, but it doesn't really add any new features that I particularly use at all, let alone on a daily basis. And I have spotted quite a few little quirks here and there over the past few months. For instance, you don't seem to get any media controls popping up in that notifications bar when you're using Google Podcasts. And I'm not a fan at all really of Samsung Free as well, which replaces the Google Discover feed with a quick swipe right from the home screen. Basically adds up a selection of slightly tailored headlines and shortcuts to some online time wasters, things like that, and some stuff that I can't actually access in the UK. The problem is it's not really quite as intuitive as Google Discover, and it doesn't offer the same level of personalization either. You can customize which topics pop up in that news feed, but it is all US based. I'm guessing because I got a US handset, it won't say, oh well, look, you live in the UK, here's a bunch of UK headlines instead. So yeah, I'd rather just replace it with Google Discover, to be perfectly honest, but that doesn't seem to be an option. Go away! And as always, you've got to doubling up on all kinds of features like 2 browsers, 2 app stores, 2 voice assistants, 2 smart home hubs. It's all a bit much. If you want to know more though, you can see some more of my general thoughts about One UI by clicking this linky bit up top where I bang on about Samsung's UI for probably far too long, unless I forgot to add the link in the editing, in which case, whoops. Now this right here is the already quite beefy 128GB model of the S20 Ultra, but you can grab an even more expensive version with half a terabyte of storage if you download a hell of a lot of smut. Although micro SD memory cards of up to a terabyte are supported anyway, so you can download pretty much whatever your sick little heart fancies. You've also got Wi-Fi 6 support for a nippy bit of internet action, very handy when we're basically stuck at home all day long, and you've also got sub-6 5G as well if you happen to live in an area with millimeter wave 5G support like the US. US, then you might want to wait for that S21 Ultra, which should support it. Me, I don't even get sub 6 around where I am, so I'm shit out of luck either way. So as I mentioned before, this isn't the standard UK version of the S20 Ultra with Samsung's Exynos platform. Instead, it's the US model with Qualcomm Snapdragon 865 backed by 12 gigs of RAM. Now this boasts better performance as well as better battery life compared with that Exynos model, and I certainly had zero issues in either of those departments with the S20 Ultra Snapdragon version. Apps load in a heartbeat, you can multitask with aplomb, and of course even the most demanding games play with a crazy smooth frame rate. And frankly, Android games can do one anyway because Samsung's premium phones come with Xbox Game Pass support, so you could blast through proper console quality titles on that gorgeous Super AMOLED screen. You will need a Game Pass subscription to get involved of course, but the 100-ish games on offer are well worth that $10 a month asking price. You can even stream games with special customized touch controls, although it can be a little bit awkward this way, so I definitely recommend hooking up a Bluetooth controller. And that epic sized 6.9-inch display definitely comes in handy for playing games as well as just kicking back with a movie or two. As usual, it's bright, it's punchy as and it's supremely crisp thanks to the Quad HD Plus resolution, although as usual you have to choose between having that sharp detail and the fast refresh rate because you can't have both. You can't have your cake and eat it, you can only have it or you can eat it. So for the most part, I just left the S20 Ultra on that 120Hz refresh mode with the Full HD resolution because I love the super smooth swishing about whenever it's active. It is a shame that you can't really get that Quad HD on the go at the same time. Hopefully that'll come along with the S21, I guess. I'm still not a massive fan of that in-display fingerprint sensor either, which seems to take a couple of stabs to unlock more often than not. Give me a solid bit of edge-mounted scanner action any day of the week, but the face recognition is generally pretty reliable. It's not the fastest around, but it will generally unlock the smartphone after a couple of seconds, so I generally just let that do its thing instead. And as I mentioned before, battery life certainly isn't an issue with this Snapdragon model of the S20 Ultra either, because that 5000 mAh cell kept me going all day long, every single day, even with lots of features like the 120Hz refresh rate and the always on display active. Of course, as most of this past year has been spent in some form of lockdown, I haven't really been able to make much use of that 5G connectivity, so I can't say quite how well the battery life would hold up if you're actually using that network connection instead. Now the camera is one of the main bits of the S20 Ultra that sets this Samsung blower apart from the vanilla S20 and the S20 Plus models, apart from the freakish size. And while it's not one of the absolute best smartphone cameras around, I still prefer the Oppo Find X2 Pro for instance. I still got on very well with the Ultra's optics. That primary lens is a 108 megapixel beast, though this captures 12 megapixel images by default, and that's plenty good for sharp looking everyday pics. You can swap up to the max res if you want, although doing so often hampers the saturation levels, so it's best used sparingly. Moving subjects are often captured cleanly with a warning when shots may be a little bit blurry. And no worries if you're shooting against a bright sky on that default 12 meg setting, because the S20 Ultra is usually smart enough to sort any issues out. At night time, the auto mode tends to cause lighter elements to flare up, while darker segments can get rather gritty. But Samsung's night mode tends to sort that right out, and this also comes in handy for dealing with softer indoor lighting, producing brighter, sharper, more natural looking pics. You've also got a 12 megapixel ultra wide angle lens, which as usual struggles to create the same natural looking pics as that primary snapper, and it also struggles in soft lighting, but it's there if you need it. But the super big whoop of Samsung's Galaxy S20 Ultra camera is that 48 megapixel periscope zoom lens, which offers Samsung's crazy, nuts 100 times space zoom feature. However, while the hybrid zoom works really well up to around the sort of 10 times mark, it's bog standard digital zoom from that point onwards, and frankly I wouldn't really bother because everything starts to look a bit fuzzy and crap pretty damn quick. Oh, and at night time you'll also get soft grainy results, so yeah. All of Samsung's usual bonus camera features are back in action, including a solid portrait mode. But I've got to say the camera feature that I probably use more than any other here on the S20 Ultra is the single take mode, which was introduced on the S20 series of smartphones. I was quite skeptical about it at first, but I've definitely come to love it. This is great for indecisive dickheads like me, capturing a selection of photos and video clips simultaneously for a total of up to 15 seconds, usually with proper great results. But I've always found that one of the strengths of Samsung's camera phones is definitely the video chops, and when I was shooting just straight up video here on the S20 Ultra, I stuck at the 4K 60 frames per second setting. You can shoot 8K, but let's face it, 8K home movies, it's a bit of an overkill, and it just absolutely slays your storage as well, so it's more of a headline grabber than an actual useful feature. Still, the 4K footage I shot looked as great as ever. Home movies look beautifully natural when you watch them back, especially at that 60 frames per second setting. Colours are spot on, detail levels are of course impressive, and audio pickup is faultless. And I've also got lots of time for the manual video mode, which allows you to tweak the settings and also serves up some very nifty tools like a super smooth zoom slider. Up front in that dinky wee camera cutout, you've got a mighty 40 megapixel selfie cam for all of your Instagramming needs, and I've got to say I loved using this thing. Even in quite soft lighting, you tend to get pretty decent results, while the portrait mode works an absolute treat. Although as usual, the wide angle mode doesn't really add much to proceedings. And there you have it, finally after 12 long months, my Galaxy S20 Ultra review. Yes, a little bit tardy on that one, so apologies. And you know, if you want a super premium smartphone and you do find that the price drops on this thing once the S21 Ultra is out, then you know, there's a lot to love about it. Certainly the screen is absolutely gorgeous, the performance, the battery life is fantastic. On the Snapdragon model, that's the caveat. However, I do still find it rather cumbersome to use. Occasionally, you know, you get your fingers straight onto that screen and selecting things that you wouldn't want to select, and it can be a little bit quirky in places too. Personally, I've got to say at this sort of price, I'd rather go with Oppo's Find X2 Pro. I'm absolutely obsessed with that phone. I think it's absolutely stunning stuff. Or of course, Sony's excellent Xperia 1 Mark II as well, which blew me away and hopefully should be replaced with the Xperia 1 Mark III imminently. Well, that's my thoughts. If you've been using the S20 Ultra, it'd be great to hear your own mini review down below. Please stay tuned for all my S21 coverage, which should be coming on the 14th, I believe it is. The launch date is set, and plenty more launches already lined up for January, so Jesus, it's going to be a busy one. So thanks for watching. Please do subscribe, ding that notifications bell, and have yourselves a lovely rest of the week. Cheers everyone, love you.